What would you do if helping a stranger in the rain could cost you everything you love? Picture this. A storm raging. A man exhausted after a double shift, fighting to keep his daughter out of foster care. And then, through the sheets of rain, a stranded woman beside a luxury car, desperate and alone. Most people would keep driving. Maybe you would too. But Marcus Johnson didn't. He didn't know that one moment, one choice, would change the entire course of his life. One broken down car. One impossible decision. The wipers dragged across the windshield in a tired rhythm, and Marcus' eyes burned with exhaustion. He had spent the whole night loading trucks, scanning boxes, moving nonstop, because if he stopped, if he let himself think about the red circle trial date on the kitchen calendar, he would break. 3 weeks. That was all he had left before everything could end. Then he saw it. Hazard lights flashing faintly through the downpour. A red luxury sedan on the shoulder of Riverside Drive, the kind of car worth more than he could earn in 5 years. A woman stood beside it, soaked, trembling, jabbing repeatedly at her phone. Marcus' foot eased off the gas. "Keep driving," a voice in his head whispered. "You're exhausted. Someone like her has roadside assistance. Insurance. Money. People." But something about her posture, the way her shoulders shook, tightened something inside him. And then came his mother's voice. Clear. Steady. "Character isn't about what you do when life is easy, Marcus. It's what you do when everything's falling apart." And everything was falling apart. 6 months earlier, $47,000 vanished from the landscaping company he worked for. Victor Thompson, richer, connected, untouchable, accused him of stealing it. The forged signatures, the doctored records, the fake emails, it all pointed to Marcus. And even his public defender, Mr. Rodriguez, had said softly, "I believe you. But proving it, that's going to be hard." If convicted, Marcus faced up to 5 years in prison. 5 years of Jasmine growing up without him. 5 years of her bouncing through the foster system because her mother had walked out long ago. The fear alone was enough to crush him. And yet, he stepped out of his car into the storm. Rain slammed into him like a wall. He raised one hand as he approached, moving slow, deliberate, non-threatening. "Ma'am," he called, staying several feet away. "You okay? Car trouble?" She hesitated, studying him through the rain. Finally, she nodded. "It just died. Won't start." Her voice was steady, controlled, the voice of a woman used to commanding rooms. "Mind if I take a look?" Marcus asked. "I'm not a mechanic, but I've kept enough old cars alive to maybe help." She popped the hood. Marcus leaned over the engine, grateful for a problem he might actually fix, something that didn't involve lawyers, forged documents, or the terror in his daughter's eyes. Within minutes, he found it. "Loose battery terminal," he shouted. "Probably got knocked loose." "Got any tools?" "No." He sprinted to his car, grabbed his worn toolkit, and got to work, tightening connections, scraping corrosion, talking softly the way he did when Jasmine couldn't sleep. "This battery's just about done," he said. "You'll want a new one soon." He felt her watching him, the intelligence in her eyes, the quiet authority in her presence. Finally, the connection clicked. "Try it now." She rushed to the driver's seat. Turned the key. The engine roared to life. Relief washed over her. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, reaching for her purse. "Just glad I could help," Marcus said. "Wait, at least tell me your name." He paused in the rain, their eyes meeting fully for the first time. "Marcus," he said. "Marcus Johnson." "Thank you, Marcus Johnson," she said softly. "You may have just saved my night." If only she knew the truth. That she had been helped by a man the world believed was a thief. He pulled away, watching her hazard lights fade into the darkness. He never got her name. 3 weeks later, he would learn it in the most impossible way. The storm didn't ease. If anything, it grew heavier, pounding against Marcus' back as he stepped deeper into the darkness. The rain struck him like a wall, soaking through his clothes instantly. But he moved slowly, carefully, hands raised, posture open, making sure every step toward the stranded woman was deliberate and safe. She turned toward him. Even through the downpour, he saw her tense. Fear. Natural. Expected. A lone woman. A deserted road. Midnight. And a stranger approaching in the storm. "Ma'am," Marcus called gently, keeping distance. "You okay? Car trouble?" She hesitated, studying him through the sheets of rain. Then she nodded. "It just died. Won't start." Her voice, steady, controlled, told him she was someone used to being taken seriously. "Mind if I take a look?" Marcus asked. "I'm not a mechanic, but I've kept enough old cars running to maybe help." After another careful pause, she nodded. "Please. I'd appreciate it." She opened the hood. Marcus leaned over the engine, grateful for the distraction. Finally, a problem not tied to courts, accusations, or the terror in his daughter's eyes. His fingers moved through wires and connections until he found it. "Loose battery terminal," he called over the rain. "Probably knocked loose." "You got any tools?" "No." He ran to his car, grabbed his battered toolkit, and worked quickly, tightening, scraping corrosion, talking softly the way he did when Jasmine struggled to fall asleep. "This battery's just about done," he said. "You'll want a new one soon. There's a gas station a couple miles ahead." He felt her watching him. Even in the darkness, her presence carried sharp intelligence, quiet authority, like someone who made decisions that mattered. The connection clicked. "Try it now." She rushed to the driver's seat. Turned the key. The engine roared back to life. Relief transformed her face, genuine, unguarded. "How much do I owe you?" she asked immediately, reaching for her purse. Marcus stepped back, shaking his head. "Just glad I could help, ma'am." "Wait, your name?" "Please." Marcus paused in the rain. Their eyes met, truly met, for the first time. "Marcus," he said quietly. "Marcus Johnson." "Thank you, Marcus Johnson," she said softly. "You may have just saved my night." If only she knew. She had just been helped by a man the world believed was a thief. He returned to his car. Drove away. Watched her hazard lights fade in his rearview mirror. He never asked her name. 3 weeks later, he would stand in a courtroom. And see that same face again, holding a gavel that could erase or end his entire future. Mr. Rodriguez sat beside him shuffling papers, trying to look confident. But Marcus could see the worry in his eyes. They both knew what usually happened to men like him when they stood against men like Victor. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Diana Mitchell," the bailiff announced. Marcus stood on trembling legs, staring at the floor. He couldn't bring himself to look up. Couldn't face the person who held his future in their hands. But something, instinct, maybe desperation, made him glance up anyway. And his breath caught in his chest. He knew that face. Those eyes. That posture, calm but commanding. Images crashed into his mind. The storm, the rain. The woman beside the red car. The gratitude in her eyes as her engine roared back to life. No. No, it couldn't be. But the longer he stared, the more impossible it was to deny. The woman he helped 3 weeks earlier was now sitting on the bench, with a gavel that could determine the rest of his life. His heart hammered painfully. Was he imagining this? Rain-soaked hair replaced with a severe bun. Soaked clothes replaced with formal black robes. Nighttime shadows replaced with harsh fluorescent light. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe fear was playing tricks on him, weaving hope where there was none. But those eyes. The shape of her face. The way she carried herself with quiet authority. He gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white. He wanted to say something. To ask. To confirm. But what could he possibly say? "Excuse me, Your Honor, did I fix your battery on Riverside Drive?" He glanced at Mr. Rodriguez, but his attorney was lost in his notes, unaware of the internal earthquake shaking Marcus apart. Judge Mitchell looked down at the case file, her expression unreadable. If she recognized him. If she remembered that night. She gave no sign. Not a flicker of acknowledgement. Not a hint of familiarity. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe he was losing his mind. The proceedings began. Marcus tried to focus on the prosecutor's opening arguments, on Mr. Rodriguez's objections, on anything other than the face of the woman who might have known him in the rain. But every time he looked up, he became more certain. And every time he looked away, he told himself he was wrong. Then something happened that froze his blood. The prosecutor presented photocopied financial documents, weak, flimsy evidence he'd seen dozens of times now. Judge Mitchell leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Mr. Davis," she said, her tone slicing through the courtroom. "These are photocopies. Where are the originals?" Marcus stopped breathing. It was her. He felt it in his bones. But still, she never looked at him. Never acknowledged him. Her face stayed perfectly neutral as she questioned the prosecutor. "I have concerns about the integrity of these documents," she said firmly. "This court will not proceed based on photocopies of photocopies." She turned to Mr. Rodriguez. "Your motion for forensic examination is granted. We will reconvene when authenticated documents are available." Her gavel struck with a sharp crack. Marcus flinched. The courtroom emptied slowly, but he stayed seated, stunned. Mr. Rodriguez kept talking. "It's unusual, it's a break, this could change everything." But Marcus barely heard him. His eyes were fixed on the judge's door as it closed behind her. Was it her? Had she recognized him? Had the woman he helped in the rain just helped him back? Or was desperation making him believe in miracles? He didn't know. And that uncertainty would haunt him for the next 2 weeks. Diana Mitchell leaned against the inside of her chamber door, breathing hard. Her hands trembled as she pressed her palms flat against the wood. Marcus Johnson. The man who had stepped out of his car in a violent storm to help her. The man drenched head to toe who refused to take a single dollar from her. The man who smiled wearily, gave his name, and disappeared into the night. She had seen the recognition in his eyes the moment she entered the courtroom. The quick double take. The flicker of confusion, then hope, then fear. He suspected the truth. But she had given him nothing, no hint, no acknowledgement, because she couldn't. Because recognizing him officially would require immediate recusal. And if she recused herself, the case would land in the lap of Judge Harrison. Judge Harrison, who denied motions without reading them. Judge Harrison, whose conviction rate hovered near 94%. Judge Harrison, who had no patience for public defenders, or for men like Marcus. Diana pressed her fingers to her temples and exhaled shakily. She had just broken almost every ethical rule she had sworn to follow. She had used her authority to demand a forensic examination that should have been granted months ago. She had pushed back against evidence she already suspected was fraudulent. She had fought for a defendant she had personally interacted with. And yet, what was she supposed to do? Let an innocent man go to prison because the system was too lazy, too understaffed, too indifferent to look deeper? She'd seen the case file. She'd seen how sloppy and circumstantial the evidence was. She'd seen how easily it could be dismantled with proper examination. Judge Williams had denied that examination earlier because it was too expensive and unnecessary. Marcus Johnson was being railroaded. And she was the only person in the building who could stop it. Even if she shouldn't have been. Sometimes justice requires impossible choices, she whispered to herself. She just prayed she had made the right one. For 2 long weeks, Marcus went through life as if underwater. Working shifts. Picking up Jasmine. Reading bedtime stories. Pretending he was okay. But every night, he lay awake asking himself the same question. Was it her? Did she recognize me? Did she ask for that forensic exam because she knew the truth? Or am I just imagining miracles where there are none? "Daddy, you're thinking too loud," Jasmine mumbled one night, half asleep. "It's keeping me awake." He forced a smile. "Sorry, baby girl. Go back to sleep." "Is it the court thing again?" "Yeah," he whispered. "Yeah, it is. Mrs. Chen says judges help good people," Jasmine said softly. "She says they're fair." Marcus swallowed hard. "I hope so, Jazz. I really hope so." The forensic accountant's report arrived on a Tuesday. Mr. Rodriguez called him at work, voice shaking with emotion. "Marcus, it's everything we needed. Everything. The digital records prove Victor fabricated the whole thing." Marcus' knees buckled. He sat down on a stack of boxes, tears streaming unchecked as he pressed the phone to his ear. "We're going back to court tomorrow," Mr. Rodriguez said. "Judge Mitchell wants to reconvene immediately." Judge Mitchell. Was it her? Was tomorrow the day he would finally know? After a careful review of the newly authenticated evidence, Judge Mitchell spoke with absolute authority from the bench. This court finds that the prosecution's case is built on fraudulent documentation. The digital banking records conclusively show that Victor Thompson, not Marcus Johnson, committed the embezzlement in question. Marcus froze. Her next words felt like they shattered the air around him. Mr. Johnson, all charges against you are hereby dismissed, with prejudice. The courtroom erupted. Voices rose, chairs scraped, murmurs rippled everywhere. But Marcus heard none of it. His hands trembled. His vision blurred with tears he could no longer hold back. He was free. He was free. Then he heard her voice again, strong, unwavering. Furthermore, this court is referring the matter to the district attorney's office with a strong recommendation that charges be filed immediately against Victor Thompson for fraud, embezzlement, forgery, and obstruction of justice. Her gavel fell with finality. Marcus looked up at her. This time, really looked at her. And for the briefest fraction of a second, their eyes met. Just a flicker. A heartbeat. A silent confirmation. It was her. It had always been her. She knew who he was from the moment the case crossed her desk. And she fought for him anyway. Quietly. Professionally. Carefully. Before he could say a word, she gathered her files and disappeared into her chambers, a clean exit, offering no cracks in protocol. Mr. Rodriguez embraced him, speaking excitedly about compensation, civil suits, life-changing money, and second chances. Marcus barely registered the words. His eyes remained fixed on the closed chamber door. He wanted to thank her. Needed to thank her. But how could he? How do you approach a judge who just saved your life and say, "Were you the woman stranded on Riverside Drive?" It felt impossible. Inappropriate. So he left the courthouse with freedom in his hands and questions in his heart. But deep down, he knew the truth. And somehow, he had to find a way to tell her. Thank you. 6 weeks passed like something out of a dream. Marcus found a better job at a hardware store. Better pay. Steady hours. Benefits that finally gave him breathing room. He got home in time for dinner every night. Jasmine covered the fridge with drawings of Daddy being free, all rainbows and crooked letters. Life felt good. Better than he believed possible. Except for one thing. He had never thanked her. He had never confirmed what he knew in his heart. That she was the woman from the rain. Who risked everything. To save him. Until one ordinary afternoon. Marcus was restocking aisle 7, automotive supplies, appropriately enough, when a soft voice spoke behind him. Excuse me, do you know where I might find battery terminals? He turned. And there she was. Not in judge's robes this time. Not behind a towering bench with a gavel in her hand. Just a woman in jeans and a soft sweater. Her hair down. Her expression warm. A faint smile tugging at her lips. Marcus felt the box of windshield wipers slip from his hands. It's you, he breathed. He could barely say the words. I knew it in the courtroom. I wasn't sure, but I knew. Her smile widened, gentle, warm, honest. You recognized me, she said quietly. How could I not? Marcus replied. Your voice, your face. But part of me kept thinking maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was desperate. Maybe my mind played tricks on me. He stepped closer. You knew too. Didn't you? Her eyes softened. From the moment I saw your photo in the case file, she said, I dropped my coffee mug. It shattered everywhere. But you couldn't say anything, Marcus whispered. No. If I had acknowledged knowing you, I would have had to recuse myself. And your case would have gone to Judge Harrison. Marcus closed his eyes as the truth hit him like a wave. And Judge Harrison would have convicted me, he murmured. 94% conviction rate. No patience for public defenders. Diana nodded quietly. You risked everything, Marcus said. His voice barely held together. Your career. Your reputation. I could lose my position if anyone found out, she admitted softly. I broke more ethical guidelines than I can count. They stood in the middle of the hardware store, surrounded by shelves of tape and screws and paint cans, and yet the moment felt sacred. Why? Marcus asked. His voice cracked. Why risk so much for someone you met once, in the rain? Diana looked at him, her expression full of truth. Because that one moment told me everything I needed to know about you, she said. A man who stops in a storm to help a stranger, using his own worn tools, refusing payment even when he clearly needs it. She shook her head softly. That is not a man who steals. That is a man with integrity. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. You saved my life, he whispered. You saved my daughter from losing her father. You helped me first, Diana replied gently. You had every reason to keep driving that night. You were exhausted, terrified about your trial, drowning in stress, but you stopped anyway. You showed me something I thought didn't exist anymore, real, uncomplicated human goodness. She paused. I never even told you my name. I realized that later, Marcus replied. You gave me yours. But I never asked for yours. And you didn't offer it. Would things have been different if I had? She wondered aloud. I don't know. Maybe. But maybe everything happened exactly the way it needed to. Then she smiled, small but brave. There's something else, she said quietly. During your trial, you brought your daughter one day. Marcus nodded. Mrs. Chen was sick. I had no one else to watch her. She drew me a picture, Diana said, smiling at the memory. She gave it to the bailiff. It was me, wearing a superhero cape. Despite the emotion building in his chest, Marcus laughed. She thinks your gavel is magic. She told the bailiff I have a magic hammer that makes bad people go away, Diana said, laughing softly. And then, with visible courage. Her voice warm, hopeful, vulnerable. She asked, would you like to get coffee sometime? Now that the case is over? Marcus felt something rise in his chest, something warm, something complicated, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a very long time. It's allowed, he said softly. Then, with a breath that felt like stepping into a new life. I'd really like that. I'd like that a lot. That Saturday, he brought Jasmine to the cafe. He had told her that Miss Diana wanted to see her drawings, and Jasmine had spent the entire morning reorganizing her artwork, changing outfits, and asking at least 14 times if she looked artistic enough. Is she the magic hammer lady? Jasmine asked, practically vibrating with excitement. She is, Marcus replied. Is she pretty? Very. Is she nice? The nicest. Then I'm wearing my princess dress. The yellow one. Because yellow is happy. And we are happy now. Right, Daddy? Marcus had knelt in front of her, looking into her bright, hopeful eyes. We're the happiest, baby girl. Now, inside the cafe, Jasmine spotted Diana across the room and gasped dramatically. Daddy, Daddy, it's her. It's the magic hammer lady. Before Marcus could react, Jasmine bolted forward with the unstoppable momentum of a small, enthusiastic tornado. Diana stood as Jasmine barreled toward her, and Marcus watched something incredible happen. All the professional composure melted from Diana's face, replaced with warmth, delight, and something like affection. Hi, Jasmine announced breathlessly. I'm Jasmine, but you can call me Jazz because Daddy calls me Jazz when I'm being good. And I'm being very good today. The words spilled out in a single unstoppable streak as Jasmine thrust a rolled-up drawing at Diana. See? That's you. With your magic hammer. And a cape. Because superheroes need capes. Obviously. Diana unrolled the drawing carefully, her eyes softening. This is beautiful, Jazz. I know, Jasmine said proudly, immediately climbing into the chair across from her. I'm really good at art. And also at eating pancakes. Do they have pancakes here? Marcus finally caught up, breathless. Jazz. Slow down. You're like a tiny tornado. Tornadoes are fast and powerful, Jasmine said proudly. Thank you. Marcus sighed. Diana laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one, light, unguarded, bright. It struck Marcus like a warm breeze. In the courtroom she'd been sharp edges and authority. Here, with his daughter, she was something else entirely. Something soft. Something real. Someone who belonged. Over hot chocolate for Jasmine and coffee for the adults, conversation flowed with an ease that surprised all three of them. Jasmine performed a dramatic retelling of her stuffed animal's adventures, complete with voices, gestures, and 2 accidental hot chocolate spills. And then Mr. Fluffington, he's my rabbit, told Princess Sparkle Paws, she's my cat, we must save the kingdom. But then they remembered they can't read maps. So they got lost in the grocery store. That's quite a plot twist, Diana said, amused as she dabbed at the spilled drink. I know. I'm full of twists. Daddy says I should write movies. With whipped cream stuck to her upper lip like a mustache, Jasmine looked very serious. Then, completely out of nowhere, she asked, "Are you going to be Daddy's girlfriend?" Marcus nearly choked. Jasmine continued, oblivious. "Because Mrs. Chen says Daddy needs a girlfriend because he's been mopey. And she says you're pretty. And you have a magic hammer. Which is basically the best combination ever." Marcus wanted the floor to open beneath him. Diana tried, and failed, not to laugh. "Well," she said gently, "your dad and I are going to be friends first. And we'll see what happens." "Okay," Jasmine said thoughtfully. "Just so you know, I'm good at sharing. And Daddy and I make excellent friendship bracelets. If you want one, I'll only use the good colors. Not the boring ones." As Jasmine launched into a detailed explanation of her bracelet-making technique, Marcus caught Diana's gaze across the table. She was smiling at him. A warm, knowing smile that seemed to say, "This feels right. This feels easy. This feels like something neither of us expected. But both of us needed." The universe had taken Marcus to the brink of losing everything. His freedom, his dignity, his daughter. And somehow brought him here. To a small cafe. With the woman who helped save his life. And the little girl who saved his heart. Kindness, he thought, really does come back to you in the most unexpected ways. The coffee dates became more frequent. Sometimes with Jasmine. Sometimes without. But always full of laughter, gentle teasing, and the growing feeling that they were becoming something more than strangers brought together by a storm. They discovered shared loves. Old black and white movies. Horrible cooking skills. And the quiet way grief shapes a person who loses their parents too young. By their 4th outing, they took Jasmine to the zoo. At the penguin exhibit, Jasmine ran ahead, her yellow jacket bright against the gray day. "Daddy! Hold Miss Diana's hand so she doesn't get lost," she shouted, halfway to the sea lions. "I don't think," Marcus began, embarrassed. "It's okay," Diana said softly. She slipped her hand into his. Warm. Steady. A perfect fit. For safety reasons, she added with a small smile. "Right," Marcus said. Safety. His heart hammered for reasons that had nothing to do with danger. By month 3, they had occasional child-free dinners while Mrs. Chen watched Jasmine. Real dates, where they talked about their past, their fears, their hopes, without interruption. Though Jasmine always demanded a full recap afterward. "Did you hold hands? Did Daddy do his nervous laugh? Did you talk about me? You should always talk about me. I'm the best topic." One night, after a beautiful dinner that stretched for hours, Marcus walked Diana to her car, her red sedan, now with a brand new battery. She leaned against the door. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Something I probably shouldn't say this early. Something that might scare you away." "You can tell me anything," Marcus said. "When I saw your name on the docket," she whispered, "when I realized who you were, I was terrified. Not because of the ethics. Not because of the risk. But because of the memory of that one brief moment on Riverside Drive. You showed me something I had stopped believing existed," she said quietly. "What's that?" Marcus asked. "Goodness," she said. "Real, uncomplicated human goodness. You had every reason to keep driving that night. You were exhausted, stressed, terrified about your trial, but you stopped. You helped me with nothing to gain and everything to lose." She stepped closer. "And I thought, this is someone worth knowing. This is someone worth fighting for." Emotion hit Marcus hard, unexpected, overwhelming. "You risked everything for me," he whispered. "I risked my career," Diana said softly. "You would have risked your daughter. Those aren't the same. What I did," she added, "was the least justice required. But what you did that night, that was pure character." Marcus kissed her. Softly. carefully, full of promise. When they parted, both were smiling. Jazz is going to be impossible when she finds out, Marcus said. Diana laughed. She'll probably demand a full report. She'll want to know if there were fireworks. And what will you tell her? Diana asked. Marcus pulled her close again. I'll tell her there were fireworks. The best kind. By month 6, Diana had become a steady presence in their lives. She learned that Jasmine hated mushrooms, but would eat any vegetable if you called it power-up food. She learned that Marcus could fix almost anything, with duct tape, patience, and pure determination. She learned that their tiny apartment, though simple, was filled with more love than many mansion-sized homes. And slowly, gently, naturally, they became a family. 1 year and 3 months after the trial that nearly destroyed his life, Marcus began planning something he never thought would be possible for him again. He was going to propose. He chose a ring, not fancy, nothing flashy, but something that sparkled the way Diana's eyes did when she laughed. He planned everything. A sunset at the park where they had their third date. The date where Jasmine insisted he hold Diana's hand for safety reasons. Mrs. Chen agreed to watch Jasmine. The weather forecast was perfect. Everything was ready. Except he made one critical miscalculation. Jasmine Johnson could not keep a secret to save her life. They were walking toward the proposal spot when suddenly, a blur of yellow jumped from behind a tree. Jasmine. She pointed dramatically at Marcus' pocket and screamed. Are you going to ask her to marry us yet? The ring is burning a hole in your pocket. That's what Mrs. Chen said. Diana gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as her eyes filled with shock and joy. Marcus froze. He stared at his daughter, who was bouncing like a rubber ball, completely unbothered. Jazz, Marcus groaned, you were supposed to be at Mrs. Chen's. This was supposed to be a surprise. We decided I should be here. Jasmine replied proudly. And oops about the surprise. But surprises are hard. It's like trying not to laugh when someone says poopy. You just can't. People in the park had turned. Strangers were pulling out their phones. A small crowd started forming. Marcus' face burned with embarrassment. But Diana was laughing and crying at the same time. When she looked at him, that was all he needed. He sank to one knee. Jasmine squealed loudly enough to shake the leaves in the trees. Diana Mitchell, Marcus began, pulling the ring from his pocket with trembling hands. You saved my life in more ways than one. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when the world didn't. You looked at my worn-out toolkit and saw character instead of poverty. You looked at my daughter. I'm not chaos, Jasmine interrupted. I'm enthusiastic. Marcus smiled. My enthusiastic daughter, he corrected. And somehow, you loved both of us. You made us a family. You made us whole. You taught us that sometimes the person you help in the dark becomes the light that saves you. He took a breath. Will you marry us? Say yes. Jasmine yelled. Say yes. I already picked out my flower girl dress and it's yellow. Diana was crying now. Happy tears, unstoppable tears. And smiling so wide Marcus thought she might break in half. Yes, she whispered. Then, louder. Yes. To both of you. Forever. Jasmine launched herself at her new future stepmom with the force of a cannonball. I knew it, she screamed. Mrs. Chen owes me $5. Marcus slipped the ring onto Diana's shaking hand. You bet on this? He asked Jasmine. Well, yeah, Jasmine said proudly. I had insider information. I'm basically a professional matchmaker. The crowd that gathered applauded. Some were crying. One elderly woman shouted. Best proposal I've ever seen. Thank you. Jasmine yelled back. I helped plan it. Marcus kissed Diana as Jasmine made gagging sounds. Then immediately said, Okay, now let's get ice cream. This is definitely an ice cream moment. The wedding was planned for the following spring. Jasmine took her role as flower girl and self-appointed wedding coordinator extremely seriously. She made lists. She drew diagrams. She insisted on rehearsal after rehearsal. We need to practice, Daddy. What if I forget how to throw petals? What if I throw them too hard and hit someone? That would be terrible for the pictures. I think you'll do fine, baby girl. I know I'll do fine. I'm just being thorough. That's what professionals do. The wedding day arrived with the kind of soft spring sunlight that makes everything glow. The garden was simple and beautiful. White chairs, soft flowers, sunlight threading through tree branches. Mrs. Chin cried openly through the entire ceremony. Mr. Rodriguez, Marcus' former public defender, served as best man. In his toast, he said, "I've seen many forms of justice in my career. But what happened with these two? That was something the courtroom couldn't deliver. That was the universe stepping in." Sarah, Diana's courthouse clerk, was maid of honor. She cried almost as much as Mrs. Chin. Jasmine, now 8.5, the half is very important, wore her proudly chosen yellow dress. She had practiced walking down the aisle 40 times. But when the music started, she skipped instead. Skipping is more joyful, she explained later. And this is a joyful day. Skipping is scientifically proven to make you happier. I read it, somewhere. During the ceremony, when the officiant asked, "Does anyone object to this union?" Jasmine stage whispered loudly enough for the pigeons to flinch. "If anyone says anything, I will fight them. I took a karate class and know 3 moves." The guests roared with laughter. The officiant had to pause to compose himself. When it was time for the rings, Jasmine carried the pillow like it held the crown jewels. She walked slowly, dramatically, savoring every step. Then she turned to the guests and announced, "Just so you all know, I set them up. I'm basically a professional matchmaker. If anyone else needs help, my rates are very reasonable. Mrs. Chen," she added, pointing into the crowd. "You're next." Mrs. Chen nearly choked on her champagne. The crowd erupted again. The vows were simple. Deep. True. Marcus promised to always stop for strangers in the rain. To keep fixing things with duct tape and hope. To be the father Jasmine deserves. And the husband Diana never thought she'd find. Diana promised to fight for justice, even when it's hard. To use her magic hammer wisely. To love the beautiful chaos that comes with an 8-year-old tornado. And to never take for granted the man who showed her what real character looks like. As they exchanged rings, Jasmine leaned toward Mrs. Chen and whispered loudly, "This is the best thing I ever did. I'm really good at this matchmaking stuff." During the reception, Jasmine took her self-appointed role as party coordinator very seriously. She taught Sarah from the courthouse how to do the floss dance. She critiqued the DJ's playlist. "We need more Encanto. Way more Encanto." And she ensured that everyone understood the full origin story of her parents' relationship. So basically, she explained to a table of amused guests. Daddy fixed her car in the rain because he's nice. Then she used her magic hammer to save him from the bad guy because she's awesome. Then I drew a picture because I'm artistic. Then they fell in love because obviously they should. Then I told them to get married because I'm smart. And now we're family. She paused. Any questions? A man raised his hand. So you're saying you're responsible for all of this? Obviously, Jasmine said, crossing her arms. I mean, Daddy and Diana helped a little. But mostly it was my excellent planning. I'm gifted. Across the dance floor, Marcus and Diana shared their first dance as husband and wife. The moment was soft. Slow. Beautiful. Diana whispered against Marcus' shoulder. I broke so many ethical guidelines for you. Marcus whispered back. Was it worth it? Diana looked toward Jasmine, who was now attempting to teach the very serious Mr. Rodriguez how to do the worm. He was failing spectacularly. Jasmine was delighted. Then she looked back at Marcus. Every single violation, she whispered. And she kissed him as family and friends applauded. Get a room. Jasmine shouted. Then quickly added. Just kidding. This is romantic. Keep going. Later, during the father-daughter dance, which quickly became a father-mother-daughter dance because Diana insisted, Jasmine looked up at them with surprising seriousness. I'm really happy, she said softly. Like, the happiest I've ever been in my whole entire life. Me too, baby girl, Marcus said, his voice thick. Me three, Diana added, pulling them both close. Good, Jasmine said with a satisfied nod. Because now I have a mom who can teach me about the law. And a dad who can teach me how to fix cars. And I'm going to be basically unstoppable. I'm going to run the world someday. Marcus laughed. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. Also, Jasmine said, eyes widening hopefully. Now that we're a real family, can we get a dog? Because families have dogs. It's basically a rule. I checked. We'll talk about it, Marcus and Diana said in unison. That's parent talk for maybe, Jasmine said knowingly. And I can totally wear you down. I can feel it working. Sometimes we think we know how our story will end. Marcus had believed his story would end with a gavel. A cold courtroom. A sentence separating him from his daughter for years. He believed he lived in a world where character didn't matter. Where the system crushed people like him without mercy. Without second chances. But he had been wrong. Victor Thompson was now serving 5 years for fraud and embezzlement. The evidence, once properly examined, had been overwhelming. Justice had been served. Not the traditional way. Not the easy way. But in the right way. Marcus had spent months believing the system would destroy him. Never knowing that the system, in the form of one remarkable woman with a conscience stronger than her fear, had been fighting for him from the moment she read his file. And Diana. She had spent years delivering justice from behind a bench. Believing that following the rules was always the same as doing what was right. But she had learned something profound. Something that changed her forever. Sometimes the greatest judgment you can make is choosing to follow your heart, even if it means bending rules that were written in a world that had forgotten compassion. As for Jasmine, she gained a mother who taught her that strength and kindness were not opposites. A mother who showed her that the bravest thing you can do is believe in someone when the rest of the world doesn't. A mother who proved that magic hammers are real when they used to do good. And most of all, a mother who never underestimated the power of an 8-year-old. With boundless confidence. And a plan. The three of them. A black father who believed in helping strangers. A judge who believed in justice over blind rule following. And a little girl who believed in magic hammers. Became something none of them expected. A family. A real family. The kind built not from perfection, but from courage, kindness, and second chances. And that made all the difference in the world. If this story reminded you that kindness always comes back to you, often in ways you never see coming, then share it with someone who needs the reminder. And ask yourself, what's the kindest thing a stranger ever did for you? Because your story, your ordinary act of goodness, might be the next one we tell. We all have the power to stop in the rain. We all carry magic hammers. If we're brave enough to use them, your story might be the next one we tell. Because every act of kindness, every small choice to help, to stop, to care, creates a ripple you may never see, until it comes back to you when you least expect it. Maybe it's a moment in the rain. Maybe it's a stranger who needs help. Maybe it's you, offering something simple, that becomes something life-changing. And sometimes, the smallest kindness becomes the miracle that saves someone's life. So tell us, what's the kindest thing a stranger ever did for you? Your answer might inspire someone. It might reach someone who desperately needs hope. And maybe, just maybe, your story will be the next one told. Because kindness travels. Kindness echoes. Kindness always returns. And the world could use more stories like yours. We all have magic hammers in our hands. Not the kind made of wood or metal, but the kind made of courage, of compassion, of choosing what's right even when life is falling apart. Marcus chose to stop in the rain. Diana chose to fight for justice. Jasmine chose to believe in magic. And those choices built a family. So the next time you see someone standing in the storm, remember this story. Remember what one small act of humanity can do. Because you never know. The person you help in the darkness may one day become the light that saves you. Be brave. Be kind. Use your magic hammer. And never underestimate the power of stopping in the rain.